If you want to convert your IG audience into high-ticket clients using YouTube, you actually need to make your content look worse. And I know it sounds very counterintuitive, but it's the exact thing that we were able to use to help my client go from $16,000 a month when he started working with us to over $50,000 a month only 90 days in. And it's also the same exact strategy we were able to use for numerous other clients to help them get to over 6 figures per month, hitting their first 6-figure months, right, within info. And we did all of this using what I call the micro niche platform funnel. Obviously, there's way more to this than just producing dog shit content. And that is exactly what I'll be breaking down in the rest of this video. The entire stack and how you're going to use the micro niche platform funnel to scale to over $100,000 per month. No gatekeeping. Literally, I'm giving away all the sauce in this video so you can use it, get your info business to at least add on another $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 per month, as long as you actually focus on this video and you don't just treat it as another dumbass free resource, right? So without any further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now, what we need to understand first is what exactly the basic structure of the micro niche platform funnel is. It basically goes something like this. Tier 1 is the top of funnel. We get cold traffic into the funnel through IG, mostly IG, and sometimes TikTok as well. But most of the cold traffic you're getting from TikTok is so unnurtured and dog shit, you're not really going to actually learn anything from it. You're not actually going to earn anything from it, right? Tier 2 is the bridge. Now, this is the undercover VSL. This acts as the bridge between your short form platforms and your long form platform, which is tier 3. Now, we'll get into very deep detail on exactly each piece of this micro niche platform funnel soon, right? But you need to understand the basic structure first. Tier 3 is the middle of funnel and bottom funnel. So the Miro board breakdowns, the case studies, all that content, long form content on YouTube that allows people to actually understand that, hey, you know what the hell you're doing, right? And then finally, tier 4 is conversion, which is the final booked call. Now, you might be wondering, why exactly are we even integrating IG and YouTube in the first place? Like, why is it? Because it isn't just post on both, right? You're not supposed to just post on both. It already comes down to the fact that they're both two sides of the same coin, right? IG and YouTube. They're both the two sides of the same coin, which means that they are fundamentally different in some ways, but they share so many similarities. And the reason that they're so fundamentally different is because IG is a short form platform, which means that the maximum amount of videos that you can have on IG is about 3 minutes long, the maximum length of video. Where on YouTube, that is a long form platform first. It has videos that can go up to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours at times, because there's literally almost no limit on the length of video that you can have on YouTube. So because that 3-minute limit, right? Nobody's actually going to go to your profile on IG and just scroll through like 30 of these Instagram reels. That's not going to happen. They're not going to do that binging you on IG daily. That's not going to happen. But what people will do, especially business owners, especially just normal ass people, they will put together some time, put on a 60 to 90 minute YouTube video in the background while they're, maybe cooking up some food or something like that, right? That's why it's so important. That's the highest level amount of trust that you can actually earn as a business owner. Having somebody put you on in the background while they're doing something else is the highest amount of trust that you can possibly earn. So what YouTube does is that it facilitates that amount of kind of nurturing. And you might be wondering, what the hell do I mean by nurturing? Well, the reason that we even want people to watch so much of this content is because of something called the 7-11-4 rule. And this was actually a study done by Google where basically they found that every single prospect on average has to consume 7 hours of your content across 11 different touch points across 4 different locations to finally buy your high ticket offer. And this is high ticket. Low ticket, you guys need even less nurturing. So the fastest way to get that 7 hours is obviously to have 7 1-hour videos, or 2 3.5-hour videos, or even 1 7-hour video. Versus if we had to have them watch like hundreds of Instagram reels, that's just not going to happen, right? That's why you always want to have something that can actually do the nurturing for you. That is why you would always want to integrate your YouTube and Instagram. That's what I'll be showing you throughout the rest of this video in exact detail. So at this point, you should be able to understand the full architecture before going deeper, see how IG, TikTok, and the VSL and YouTube in the book call connect as a one funnel, and know what each platform's job is in the stack. But let's get a bit more granular, starting off with Instagram. Now, when you actually hop onto someone's Instagram profile, the first thing you see is, of course, their main bio, their main profile, right? So that's what I've put here first. The first thing you need to optimize is your profile. So what you need to do is you need to have an authoritative pose with a high level background for your profile picture, right? So Brez here, obviously this is different for B2B and B2C. For B2B, it's authoritative pose with a high level background. It signals a different level. So for example, this is my profile picture. As you can see, pretty clean background overall, right? I could be doing something more like funnily, but this is the best photo I could find. So you can have maybe a laptop on there or something like that. You just need to know, you look like you know what you're doing. On the other hand, there's B2C. As B2C, you need to show everybody that, okay, you might be retarded, but I'm even more retarded than you, and yet I make more money. And the best way to do that is to be like the most normal ass dude physically possible. And that is why Brez here has his profile picture as almost like a mugshot of him. Make him seem as normal as physically possible. Super white background, nothing else, absolutely no embellishment at all. Now for the bio itself, you want to have 3 main elements that actually make this work, right? Now, first off, you want to have some sort of big like social proof, right? Or sorry, what you do, right? So this is what you do. I scale brands and own cool cars. Number 2 is the big social proof, building Brez Marketing and My Trenchies. Now, you don't have to do this as a brand. You don't have to say, hey, I'm building this brand. You can also say, hey, we help people get 20% more conversion on average, or we've been able to generate $500,000 of client revenue in the past few months, right? Whatever you think is the most compelling social proof that you possibly have. And most of you guys have something that you can say. And then at the bottom, there's the CTA. Now for him, it's the free training. For you, it might be the YouTube VSL. And of course, it should be the YouTube VSL. Now, the one link in the bio should always, for you, when you're doing the micro niche platform funnel, be the undercover VSL that we're going to be making soon, right? And then, of course, there's the highlight. And the highlights have 3 main things that you really need to focus on. Cool. And highlight 1 is going to be the CTA highlight, right? So highlight 1 is going to be like proof, what you do, CTA, all that stuff. Highlight 2 is then going to be your story. This is B2C only. If you're B2B, do not do this. Nobody gives a shit about your story. As long as you've lived the thing, it always sells harder. Now, B2B coaches, you should add a story highlight. Otherwise, if you're a B2B service provider, one-on-one kind of done for you service provider similar to me, don't do that stuff because nobody cares. Nobody cares about where you came from or whatever. All they care about is client results. That's why your highlight number 3 should be client results. Skip all the lifestyle crap if you're a B2B. Load as many results as possible. Now in this case, Brez is the most B2C guy you could possibly find. And so he's got a ton of lifestyle, and then lifestyle. But even he has, of course, a ton of social proof to show that, hey, I know my shit, right? So that's obviously his client results highlight. The only thing he's really missing is CTA highlight. That's the only thing he's missing. But obviously you can add that as well. CTA highlight would be something similar to like, okay, a story sequence, right? And I'm going to be breaking down a story sequence actually right below here. So you can just go ahead and use that same exact structure to make your main CTA highlight. Cool. Then there's the real content strategy. Now, the content strategy has to focus on 2 things, okay? The clipping flow, or you can go for another type of content, right? So clipping flow is the absolute easiest. Because what you can do is you can take your long form content that you've already filmed, you can clip it up into small short form pieces of content. Now, for example, here, this is one of my videos where I was able to clip up my longer form video, funnel breakdown of Brez, or sorry, TJR. And this was able to get me, 93,000 views and a shit ton of qualified leads. Other than that, then I've got a piece of content right here, which I was able to clip up my sales calls, clip up my, client calls, right? Put them up onto IG and just show that, okay, I have that amount of authority. And then there's, for example, Nick's setting style, which is just clips from his longer form, which are actually talking heads, right? And these are like one type of caption on the top and then some kind of talking head below it. The second type of content that you can do, or the third and fourth and fifth as well, what you can do is that you have 3 other options if you don't want to do clipping. If you don't have a clipping army or you don't actually have the time to do clipping, what you can do is substitute it with these 3 different types of content. All of them have their different pros and cons. Clipping is the most middle of the road type of content possible. And so the rest have their different pros and cons, and they lie on a different part of the spectrum. So talking heads are going to build the strongest personal brand. They're going to build the strongest personal brand, but they have the weakest virality. 99% of the time, most of you guys are not going to go viral with talking heads. They're not going to build virality, right? All they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and build a strong personal brand through the value that you give on these talking heads and the personality that you show on these talking heads. That's all it's going to do. So if you want the strongest personal brand with the smallest following, this is what you do. On the other hand, there's the edited, super edited posts similar to Devin Jatho. These build the weakest personal brand. Now, they do build a personal brand in some capacity, but it's just way weaker than what you could do with the talking heads, and obviously a little bit weaker than what you could do with clips. But with these, you have the highest virality. That is why Devin is able to get hundreds of thousands of views per reel. Now, you might have the argument of, oh my God, Brez makes so much views off of every single reel. Yeah, well, they're so low quality that it doesn't really matter. 99% of those views don't matter at all. Nobody's going to care about anything that he has to sell. 99% of them, right? He's just trying to go viral as possible to stay relevant, because that is his personal brand. You want to build something that's more micro niche so that you have an easier life and you don't have to deal with all the extra bullshit that comes with being famous, like Brez is, and also being very controversial. And then there's also this kind of style, which is the Miro board split screen style. Now, if you don't know this guy, this is Jonas Rorwick. Highly recommend checking him out if you haven't already. And basically this reel goes over how he has an 80% close rate and 98% show rate. And he was able to get over 100,000 views on this. And this is a pure value reel. And the only time you want to do this is if you're a B2B, right? If you're a B2B, that is the only time you want to do this. If you're a B2B coach, B2B consultant, B2B service, whatever, that is the only time you would ever want to do this. But as a B2C coach, probably who's watching this video, right? You who is watching this video, you want to never do this kind of content because this is just not going to work in the B2C niche. It's simply not going to work. It's not something interesting for B2C. Now, every single reel is chasing one thing, which is the follow, because a viewer who follows is now inside the story sequence funnel. And speaking of story sequences, this is a story sequence. Stories posted in a specific order with one goal, which is book a call. I'll come back to this in a second when we actually have to break down the story sequence structure in a moment. It is a sequence that is engineered to convert the warmest leads you already have. Think about who already clicks your story. Your followers, people who've seen you enough times to know you, like you, and trust you. They've already been through the value funnel, right? Over time, as the touch points with your content increases, your trust increases as well. And eventually you get to a point where they actually trust you enough to finally follow. And that is when they're at a point where they're at like the bottom level of the KLT funnel, the know, like, and trust funnel. A story sequence is just converting that trust into a booked call. You want to think of this similar to a glass and a tap, right? This is the diagram, super high effort, right? Your content, now at the beginning, your tap is completely closed, okay? The tap is completely closed. There's no water coming out, right? The content, every single time you post content, every reel, every single video, every touch point, it adds more and more water. Now, this is blood red water. Don't ask any questions about it. Your goal is to fill it as fast as possible to the brim, because you make better content, through better followers, through more touch points, everything like that, right? More content, more touch points. That is what's going to fill it as fast as physically possible. And when you run a story sequence, what you do is that you actually open this tap. So all of the water comes out all at once, okay? The more water in the glass, right? The more water that is filling the glass, the more water that eventually comes out of the spigot. And your goal is to get as much water out as physically possible. And the water in this case is money, is dollars, right? So how do you actually do this, right? The structure goes as follows. There's actually 4 frames that goes into a story sequence. Frame 1 is the hook. Now, this is what makes them need to keep clicking. And I was actually going to reference this here. So I'm going to bring this down here. So frame 1 is obviously the hook here. I haven't been completely honest with you. For months now, I've been watching something unfold. I've kept quiet about it, blah, 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 right? Then there's frame 2, which is hype. This is the hype frame. This is the frame 1, obviously hook, big, interesting thing. I haven't been completely honest with you. And then after that, there's just the hype here, right? This is all hype. Obviously, this is also actually social proof. So this is social proof. This is the frame 3, which is proof. These 2 are proof, okay? But technically, all this is doing is really just fulfilling the action of just building as much hype as physically possible for the payoff at the end, right? And once we build all that hype, right, and all that proof, all the way up till here, right, all of it, then we're actually going to have the CTA. That's the final one. And we obviously always want to add some kind of urgency, so you can say like 3 or 5 spots filled or whatever. Just don't repeat it too much, just because then your audience is like, okay, this guy just always has fucking spots filled. What, like, you know, it gets kind of repetitive if you keep using the same number every single time. Vary the number, vary the way you say it, and that is going to make it far more believable. And obviously here, Iman has 2 CTAs, but that's what a good story sequence would look like, right? There's the hook, hype, social proof, And then finally the 2 CTA sequences or 2 CTA slides. Now 2 CTA slides, the reason that he added this is just because the second CTA sometimes gets some of the more like on the edge guys. So if they're like, okay, hey, I don't know if I want to click, I don't know if I want to click, before they get the chance to just move on to the next story and kind of forget this, it reinforces that. It ups the conversion rate by a little bit, a few percent. I wouldn't do this for every story sequence, just do it for the ones that are really important. So whenever you do some kind of launch. So for the cadence of posting story sequences, you can't post them forever, right? You can't post infinite ones because you'll face what's called audience burnout, where your audience is like, okay, every single time I'm going on this guy's fucking story, he is trying to sell me, right? Nobody's going to look at your story if that is all you're doing. So what you want to do is you want to do about 4 sequences per month with unlimited lifestyle content in between, because the lifestyle keeps them clicking so that they never know when a sequence is going to be coming. For a clipping page, if you have a clipping page, the Loki sequences should be the only thing you have. Never hard sell, every 2 to 3 days. They already know what you sell. You just need to drop the link. Loki sequence is like, think of it like a sequence that just has no hard sell. It's very social proof heavy. There's a lot of belief shifting. So it's like more so objection handling and belief shifting. Sometimes there's a DM CTA, sometimes no CTA at all. It just shifts the belief of the viewer, and they already know what you sell in this kind of situation where you're in a clipping page. So you just need to drop the link if you need to actually sell. On a clipping page, only Loki sequences, DM CTAs, or no CTA at all. Never do you want to do some hard kind of CTAs, because then at that point it's going to lose the follow really, really quickly, because the friction from unfollowing from a clipping page versus the main account is way, way lower. Because the second they expect a pitch every single time they click your story, your views will drop and your sequences will stop converting. So every single time, make sure the lifestyle keeps on coming, and make sure that they don't expect it, right? They make sure that they don't expect a pitch every single time. Don't do it on the same day. Vary the kind of days that you do it on the week. Vary the amount of story sequences that you post per month, 3 to 5. Easy, really easy. And just keep on posting lifestyle stuff, super interesting lifestyle stuff. For example, videos, right? Talking heads. Super interesting stuff where you give away value, where you also just kind of talk about yourself, personality. Now on stories, you obviously don't want to give away any value, because that's what your reels do. You just want to talk about yourself, talk about your opinions, talk about stuff that's going on in the world, right? All that stuff. And then there's close friends. Now this is completely optional. Basically what happens is that if you've ever seen this green bubble, this means that somebody added you to their close friends list, which is a feature on IG. What this does is that it pushes all of your story viewers, right? It pushes your story all the way to the top. So if this is what your main feed looks like, your story would come all the way over here, even if it's like something that they've never seen before. Even if they've never seen your story before, Instagram will instantly recommend it all the way to the front. This will 2 to 3x your story viewers. Now Instagram has been trying to patch this, but if you have somebody who has like a full-time job where they can add every follower that you get into the close friends, it works. You just can't add a lot of people at once. Now views will triple on close friends versus normal stories. It costs about $500 a month as a standalone. You want to basically get the story sequences converting on the main account first, and then layer this on top. These work best when you're more so smaller, so like 2,000 to 5,000 views or so, or 2,000 to 5,000 followers. A huge ROI in that case. It gets harder to maintain as you scale unless you have like a VA doing it, because if you're getting like 1,000 followers an hour, it's like impossible to keep track of that. Instagram has been trying to patch this again. It still works if you do it consistently though. And of course, you just want to get the sequences converting on the main and then layer this on top. So your goal is to basically optimize every IG profile element to funnel towards the undercover VSL. Clip YouTube content into reels that build follows, run 4 story sequences per month on the main and Loki sequences every 2 to 3 days on the clipping page, and use lifestyle content as the warm-up so sequences do not get skipped, and finally convert warm followers into booked calls without burning the audience. Which brings us into the actual bridge that I mentioned earlier between the YouTube and the IG, right? So now that you've got your IG optimized, you need to actually bridge into the YouTube so you can get all that nurturing that we talked about at the beginning of the video. And this is super simple. All you need is a undercover VSL. This is a video that you post on YouTube that sits in between your IG and your YouTube kind of audience. Cool. The difference, now you might think, okay, VSL, okay, so it's just a sales video. No, it's completely different from a normal VSL. How so? A normal VSL looks something like this. You know it's going to open with a pitch. Your sales guard is up. It's super produced, scripted, high effort, and it just has a hard close at the end. Viewer knows that they are being sold to. With an undercover VSL, it looks like a breakdown video, right? Something like this. They think they're learning, and they are. It just also converts them. Face cam in the corner, very raw, no production budget and at all, right? CTA at the end, and by then they have already sold themselves. And the biggest thing is that you're not going to have sales guard up. right? You're not going to have the sales guard up. And so people aren't going to be guarded against you trying to sell them, so that you can subconsciously actually change their beliefs throughout the video far easier than, for example, a normal VSL on a VSL funnel page, right? So the less salesy it feels, the lower resistance to buying. Now, the reason this actually works is because the less salesy it feels, the lower the resistance to buying, right? By the time they finish watching, they've consumed the mechanism, seen the proof, and talked themselves into it. With an undercover VSL, it's like there's no salesiness. So the resistance to buying is as low as physically possible. It's all the way on this end. With a normal VSL, it's all the way up here because the resistance to buying and the salesiness is at an all-time high. Now, there are 4 elements that make an undercover VSL work that you need to dial in if you actually want to make something like this. And the 4 elements are as follows. Cool. Miro board on screen. The whole video is the board. There should be no slides, no graphics, just the entire breakdown. Now, maybe you can pull in a browser if you really want to show something that wasn't on the board. And then number 2 is the face cam in the corner. It keeps it human. You're not hiding behind the content. You're actually there presenting it with high authority. Number 3 is the raw editing, no editing, raw cut, no music, no B-roll, no transitions, nothing, right? It looks like you filmed it in an afternoon because you did. You literally did. It takes you like an hour or 2 max to film something like this, maybe 30 minutes, right? And then boom, you just post it. This is the type of content that's working right now. And that's why I'm telling you, like, the undercover VSL is insane for conversions, because you have the raw authenticness of the YouTube video, lowering the sales guard, adding nurturing to the Instagram audience, so that no matter what, right, if they come into the YouTube and they're like, okay, hey, I don't want to go ahead and book a call with this guy right away, they can look at the rest of your YouTube, binge it, see how much value you're giving away, and they're going to be like, eventually like, okay, I need to get on a call with this guy. 3 to 6 months is obviously the average buying cycle within info, but once that's done, easy, they hop on a call with you, no matter what. And then if they're like, okay, hey, I'm convinced by this video, I saw a few of his reels and he seems like he's spitting sauce, they instantly will just go ahead and book in a call from your bio, or sorry, your description. Easy, really simple. Let's just make sure that you have a very good gateway from IG straight into the YouTube. And it's great for if you're trying to convert or integrate IG and YouTube together. Now, at this point, you should understand why the undercover VSL converts without triggering sales resistance. Know the 4 elements that make the format actually work, and see exactly where it sits between IG cold traffic and the YouTube nurturing. And speaking of the YouTube nurturing, how do you actually build out the boards for this, right? Because that takes a shit ton of time, you know? Well, what you need is a virtual assistant board architect, a VA trained specifically to build Miro boards for your YouTube videos, someone whose only job is to turn your knowledge into a board you can film in 10 minutes. Without a VABA, you spend like 3 to 5 hours every single day making a board, which is just goddamn impossible. Right? It's impossible. As a business owner, you have a lot of better shit to be doing, which includes making actual more volume of content, making higher quality boards and content as a result of that, and then being able to get more views, being able to get more conversions from those views as well, and actually getting more ICP leads. So with a VABA, you're able to send them a simple voice note, and within just, they spend all the long hours that you would have to spend usually. You review it for just 5 to 10 minutes before filming, and with this strategy, you're just able to basically post weekly, like 2 to 3 times a week very easily, right? If you have like a VABA, right? And so easily you're able to up your content cadence, and that very, very, very quickly repays the amount that you spend on this VABA. So there are some distinctions between what exactly you keep and what exactly VABA will take. It's mainly, you need to keep the thumbnail concept. So just make the thumbnails within Canva, like the thumbnails that I make, right? I just make them through Canva. Very simple stuff. Now the angle, so the actual idea of the video itself, that is something you have to keep. The filming, obviously nobody else can film for you, and just sending them that voice note, giving them that knowledge, and just briefing them on exactly what you want within the video itself. Whereas everything else goes to the VABA, which means building the boards, structuring the boards, the researching of the boards and everything like that, the optimization of the boards, and obviously the recycling of old specific knowledge that you've already had, right, for the boards. Now, for training them, you need to go ahead and give them access to everything. After about a week, they will know the offer well enough to start building. A few months in, and they will be making boards better than you. Now, we personally give them access to the Notion, the YouTube, Google Meet, WAP, ManyChat, whenever we have a VABA that we have to train. And it takes about, again, 500 to 1,000 a month. 1,000 if you really want to pay someone good. 500 if you find a pretty good deal, like a lot of people are easily willing to take $500 in a third world country. Now, how we do it is actually completely different. We actually just use AI. This board took me under 15 minutes to make. Clients we work with get this from just day one. The AI already knows how to build these. We just feed it the voice note. The board comes back completely ready to film. Oh, that was a crazy voice crack. But anyways, your goal is here to understand what exactly a VABA does and why it's the highest leverage hire for YouTube volume. Know exactly what to delegate and what to keep. See how the board building process can get off of your plate entirely. Now, we got the board building handled, but what about the market research, the outlier tracking, and actually getting the ideas, the noggin for making good boards? Well, it all comes down to ideation, and ideation is just copying competitors. Why? Because it works. You don't want to be the guy reinventing the wheel, right? Everybody has worked so damn hard to make a good product. Why are you sitting here trying to completely remake it from scratch? It makes no sense in the slightest. So basically, the earlier you copy an outlier, right, the more of it, or the more of the actual effectiveness that you get of the video compared to the actual effort that is required. So what you can think of it as is that the effort required is what's called a non-linear pattern. Now, a non-linear pattern is something that really just, the effort goes down in a non-linear way, which means that it's exponentially decreasing. So the amount of effort that you have to give in here, right? Let's for example take this Iman VSL. The amount of effort Iman had to put into this VSL was probably 2 to 3 to 4 times more than the second guy who made it, right? And then the same exact thing for the next guy. He probably had to do it 5 to 6 times easier than the next guy, right? Super simple. So it's like 5 to 6. You can think of it like diminishing returns in that sense. So it's like he had to do all of the effort to make the video. He had to do 2 to 3 times or 5 to 6 times less effort. He had to do 2 to 3 times less effort, and then the last woman here had to do like just 1.5x less than the other guy, just a small little bit less than this next guy. But at the same time, the linear pattern is the effectiveness of the video itself. The video itself is far more effective as we go down, or isn't far more effective, but it is still very effective even as we go down this chain. So what you want to do is that the effectiveness, since it goes down non-linearly, you want to be the second or the third person to actually copy a certain video. Never the first or the fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever, because at this point you don't get really any results. But here, this is the sweet spot where you can do like no effort and yet get super, super good results. Now, this doesn't mean you rip their videos entirely, right? You can take certain parts of the video and then, put it into your video. For example, like this graphic right here, I actually was able to take inspiration for this graphic from another YouTube channel that talked about this exact thing, right? And obviously the rest of this video was something that was of my own making, but I was able to take inspiration for this certain part. So you can take inspiration for certain parts of your video, and also especially like the thumbnail and title ripping, very, very simple. Just take the thumbnail and title. That's something that is completely fair game. It's just that you have to have a different meat in the video, and you have to have actual input from yourself. So how do you exactly find outliers? Well, you use something I like to call, well, not what I like to call, but something I like to use called vidIQ. And this is basically a service, right, where it lets you see everything about a YouTube channel. So for example, this is Mark Build Brands, right? It gives me the views gained, the subscribers, the monthly earnings, blah, blah. This is like useless stuff. But the real thing you really want to care about is finding the outliers. So you can see right here, 14.2x, 5.9x. This is compared to his average on videos similar to this. Now, for example, this one was just an average ass video. I wouldn't copy this, but something like this is something I would copy. Now, you also have to think about the fact that some videos are super top of funnel. So for example, this one, and they're not going to get him insane amounts of leads, but the amount of views they're going to get for top of funnel is absolutely massive. So this is great for if you're ideating top of funnel / middle of funnel videos, because those with those view counts actually matter. For bottom of funnel stuff, view counts doesn't really fucking matter. It's just like how much you can funnel people into it. It's just that how many people actually give a shit enough to actually look at your bottom of funnel videos. So for that, you don't need ideation. You just need to put together a clean looking, just kind of cleanly edited video, and that's it for bottom of funnel. Bottom of funnel is not super complicated. All you need to focus on is top of funnel and middle of funnel for actually ideating, right? That's the only thing you need to look for. And the longer you wait after an outlier drops, the less it will work. So what you want to do is you want to post within days and not weeks. So at this point, your goal is to understand why copying outliers beats reinventing ideas from scratch, know how to use vidIQ to spot what's already working in your market, and see why being the second or third person to post a concept gets disproportionate returns for the effort that you put in. Now, what about content distribution? Because I mentioned top of funnel and middle of funnel and bottom of funnel a little bit, but let me explain exactly what these actually are and what they mean. So top of funnel is 50% of your content. It should be 50% of your content. Now, this really depends because I've gotten this question a lot, right? I don't make much top of funnel. Now, my funnel breakdowns, a lot of people don't realize funnel breakdowns are actually top of funnel. So I do make a lot of funnel breakdowns. I've made already a lot of funnel breakdowns. And a lot of the content that I make right now is also a lot of middle of funnel stuff. So the reason I do this is because I get disproportionate returns on my middle of funnel because my personal brand stays small. I like keeping a small personal brand and getting lower lead flow, but getting really high quality leads. Like the amount of leads I'm able to get a perfect like lead flow in to my funnel while converting people at like an 80% close rate. That is what I like to do. So it's up to you for personal preference, but top of funnel being there allows you to get more views, right? Top of funnel being there allows you to get way better overall just results. That's why I have my IG as top of funnel. Now YouTube, you can have YouTube top of funnel. I just don't like it, right? That's my personal preference. So I would recommend if you want to get the most results and you don't care about anything else, do YouTube top of funnel. If you really do actually want just the highest quality leads possible and don't want to deal with unqualified leads and all that shit, just do IG top of funnel and then use the micro niche platform funnel to be basically make sure that you only get qualified leads on your YouTube. So right on the top of funnel side, this is stuff that gets views from people that don't know you yet. Cool. And you want to make about 50% of your content top of funnel. 30% of your content should be middle of funnel. Filters the right people and to build enough trust to make them care about that mechanism. And then bottom of funnel content is just the 20% that converts. Heavy CCAs only for people that are actually ready to buy. Now, you don't want to do too much bottom of funnel content because you'll burn the audience. So they will stop watching before they are actually ready for the main conversion. So that's why you just want to keep a much higher emphasis on the top of funnel and middle of funnel. So the juxtaposition effect. Now, this is something that actually is what makes these videos, like I've given you a few examples of these videos. You might be wondering, how did these get 2,000 views? Or how does this one get like, 469,000 views, even though it's like, by all accounts, like technically what would be considered a dog shit video previously and quite a while ago, right? He's literally in a black room, a jack guy in a black room with a fucking board. That's it. So why does that actually get views? Well, it's all because of the juxtaposition effect. And the reason this works is basically as follows. What happens is that the thumbnail and the title are the hook, right? The title and thumbnail look insane. The viewer clicks to see what exactly is going on. Now, insane is a bit of a crazy word, that pun not intended, but the reason, the way you would want to think of this is like, okay, you need to make a very big claim within the title and the thumbnail. For example, like let's say a title from me. I would say, hey, here's how to use the micro niche platform funnel to get to 100K a month. Or maybe like if I had to start from scratch, if I wanted to get to 100K a month and I had to start from scratch in 2026, here's exactly what I would do. Copy me, right? That infers that, okay, he's already gotten to 100K a month before. Now look at this face and you tell me like, okay, does this scream credibility? No, because like obviously that's what the point of the hook is. You're just micro board and face cam. So it's like, okay, this guy is absolutely retarded. He's full of shit. I want to prove myself right. So they click on your video, give you 2 to 3 seconds of their time, and then they see the content inside. So you start then what you really need to do, the most important thing is you start the video with a absolute metric ton of social proof. Hit them with a dump truck full of social proof as much as physically possible. Right? Once you're able to hit them with that big social proof, then they're hooked. They're like, okay, this guy actually seems to know what he's talking about. Once you hit them with that social proof, they give you a few like 10 to 20 seconds of their time, which allows you to get into the actual value of the video, get into the meat, and that really hooks them because they're like, okay, this guy's actually giving genuine sauce. So you need to give calm delivery, no bullshit, just a legit Miro board breakdown. So you get the clicks from the hook and the content does the rest. Now your goal here is to know what percentage of your content should be top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. Understand what exactly each stage is actually trying to do and use the juxtaposition effect to get clicks without sacrificing any credibility in the slightest. Now, finally, there's video structure, which is the main conversion engine. And all this obviously comes down to the thumbnail and the title. Now, I did discuss the juxta effect briefly, but there's actually a few more things you can do to make there's a few more things that go into the juxta effect, basically. Now, a standard thumbnail looks similar to this, right? It's super over edited. There's a lot of just competing stuff like that you have to look at, and it's just so confusing, right? This is not something that is conducive to attract ICP followers. And the title itself is just like, what exactly does this mean? Like, what is it? What does this mean? It does not make any sense, right? That is what a standard thumbnail and title would look like. A juxta thumbnail is is this right here, right? Super simple, like there's nothing here. And you can actually see it, right? This guy, he kind of stretched out his face cam to make himself look as retarded as possible. You want to make yourself look as stupid as possible. This is especially if you're B2C. If you're B2B, you need to have some modicum of self-respect. That's why I don't stretch out my thumbnails and don't make myself look like a retard 99% of the time. Whereas otherwise, if you're doing B2C, you need to, again, it comes back to the same statement I had previously, where it's like everybody thinks that they're a little bit retarded. You just need to show them that you're even more retarded, right? You need to tell them that you're even more retarded. Cool? And you were able to make that amount of money. So here, it's a huge claim in the title, how I plan to make millions with GTA 6. And then it's like so intriguing that this dumbass thumbnail is paired with this huge claim in the title. The title makes a clear promise. First 15 to 30 seconds, it delivers exactly that. If those two things do not match, the retention will drop if you haven't before you've even started. Now for the intro, there's 5 main pillars, right? There's authority, right? So we did 152K last month. There's promise, so restate exactly what the video delivers. Proof, one result, one number, one screenshot, something. Urgency, so why this matters right now. Belief shift, what they're doing wrong. And now you can structure this and you can change the overall structure of this as well throughout. It's the same thing that I did in the beginning of this video with my intro, right? If you want to convert your IG audience into high-ticket clients using YouTube, first thing you need to do is make your content look worse. Belief shift from that, as well as promise. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but that's the same thing we did to help one of my clients go from $16,000 to over $50,000 a month in 90 days. That's huge proof. And then after that, I was like, we've done the same thing for multiple 5- and 6-figure entrepreneurs. And then that's my big authority. And then finally, there's urgency. Now there's really not big urgency here. It's just that the promise is huge. So people are like, okay, I want to get in on this value before it kind of escapes me. You just want to do all of 5 of these in the first 60 to 90 seconds. You just want to try to do all 5. Urgency is something that is a bit more difficult to do, but it's generally something that you always want to add into the thumbnails, or sorry, the intros. That brings us into the retention loop. This is how you're going to keep people interested in the rest of the video throughout. And what you want to do is just want to introduce a problem, an example of the problem, and then an actual lesson. And then you just want to keep on repeating this. Cool. You present a new problem, give an example, and pull the lesson out of it. Then the cycle starts again. If there's always a new problem being set up, they never get a reason to click off of your YouTube video. And then finally, there's CTAs, which is the main conversion mechanism. You want to drop these throughout the video. Every time you close a loop is a CTA moment. The viewer who's ready to buy does not always make it to the end of the video, right? That's why I had the CTA earlier in the video. So it was like a bit of a soft CTA where I mentioned our AI board builder, right? That made you realize, hey, this guy has an offer. Cool. You can add soft CTAs throughout the video to kind of prime everybody for the final CTA. And then the goal here is to know the thumbnail tactics that make the juxta effect hit harder in B2C, have the 5-pillar intro framework locked in, understand the problem, example, lesson, loop, and why it keeps retention high, and never treat CTAs as an afterthought again. And that, of course, brings us into the last thing, which may sound lame as hell, but it's data tracking, right? This is so important that you cannot even fathom. This is a lot of the time I've come into businesses and they've actually, the only thing that's holding them back is just data tracking. They don't know what the hell they need to do. If you don't know what exactly you're doing, think of it like you're in an island, you're in an island nation, you're in an abandoned island. You're like, okay, I don't know what the hell to do. This is you. Okay. Now what you're doing is that you're taking the map that you have. Okay. And you're deciding, hey, I'm going to just toss this. Cool. I'm going to toss this. That's what you're doing. You have a map in your hands. You need to have that map. What you're doing when you're data tracking is building that map and kind of understanding where you are on that map. Cool? On the island of that map. So when you know where you're at, and the data tracking can also allow you to know where you were supposed to be at next, that allows you to actually, find the exact path, the shortest path to get to the desired outcome. Cool. Now, what you want to track is the views, the calls booked directly from this video, the form submissions, the tracking link clicks, the close rate from this video specifically, all of that stuff. The video generating the most bookings tell you exactly what to keep making. You stop producing content based on gut feel and just make more of what's already working. You can also see how many videos someone has watched before booking. If they watched 1, the closer needs to obviously educate them way more on the call. And if they watched 5, it's basically already closed before anybody really picks up the phone. Now for monthly KPI setting, now KPIs means obviously key performance indicators. They're indicators of they're basically things that you want to track. They're the most important things that you want to track. Think of it like that. Key performance indicators should be the previous month's data. Cool. So you take the previous month's data, set targets for this month. So mainly you want to focus on the close rate, the show rate, the AOV, bookings per video. And then at the end of the month, you want to review again and you want to iterate on this. That's how you set up monthly KPIs and you actually set them up month to month. Most people will set a revenue goal and nothing else, but revenue is the outcome of 4 or 5 other numbers. If the close rate was 29% last month, you know exactly what needs to improve by what and how much. So the goal here is to track every single video individually. Views alone will tell you nothing. Use the data to figure out what to keep making and what exactly you really need to kill, as well as set KPIs at the start of every singular month without fail. Now, that was the kind of full deep dive on the micro niche platform funnel. Now, implementing all of this stuff by yourself will take a few months to even a year. So if you want me and my team to kind of implement our proven systems into your business, systems that have helped multiple coaches double, triple, sometimes quadruple their info businesses, I'll leave a link in the description. You can go and check it out right here. It should say work with me. So here's exactly what kind of happens on that call. We'll hop on for 45 minutes, one-on-one. We figure out what exactly the bottleneck is in your business. I'll help you fix it for free on that call. You'll realize that I know what the hell I'm talking about. You'll ask me to pitch you, I'll pitch you, and then we'll see exactly if we want to move forward from there. And we'll see, we'll either be working one-on-one at the end of this call to scale your business to $100K a month, or you're going to be walking away with another $5,000 to $10,000 unlocked within your business for literally completely free. The link is in the description. It takes literally 2 seconds to book. You press this button and you press this button. Really, really simple. Fill out a 3-question form. That's it. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day.